welcome back to the channel. So today I'm finally going to be installing the long tube headers on the Camaro. Let's go back to the driveway. I have the Y pipe, I have the headers, and we'll start taking this thing apart. Alright guys, so I got all my parts in front of me here. I got my headers, my Y pipe, all the hardware, gaskets. Now, I went with Speed Engineering 1 7/8 headers. Right now I do have 1 3/4 on the car. They are long tubes, pretty much exactly like these headers. I'm relatively sure they are Speed Engineering. I bought them a few years ago from eBay for around the same price, so I'm pretty sure they're also Speed Engineering. These cost me 300 bucks delivered. Now this is a Hawks Y pipe, specifically for 3rd gen LS swaps. Now it's similar to the one I have on the car now, except this one was a little more expensive. The one on the car now cost me $159 when I put it on, when I got the headers that are on the car now. This one cost 300 bucks. Now, the only difference that I could really tell, on their site, they have one listed as a weld-in and one listed as a slip fit. Now, the one I got now is a slip fit. The one I have on the car currently is the weld-in. So, the difference in that being, with the slip fit, the header actually slides into the Y pipe. So that's going to give you a better seal, and hopefully these band clamps they give you are going to seal it up and not cause any leaks, as opposed to the one that's on the car now. If you can see it, you can see it's a lot skinnier because it actually, the Y pipe slips into the header. So I am going to lose a tiny bit of ground clearance by going with the slip fit Y pipe, but by doing that, I'm hoping I can eliminate the V-band clamps, and these will provide a good enough seal so I don't have to keep those V-band clamps on there because they keep ripping off and causing leaks. I just don't have the ground clearance for them. So by going to these like really thin, low-profile band clamps, that's going to give me the ground clearance I need, and hopefully I'm not going to be scraping as much anymore. Alright, so the way this thing installs is it's in separate pieces. So the two pieces coming off the headers are separate. They have to be welded in place, and then this is just a like a drop-down adapter that goes in the back. You can get this in a 4-inch. I got a 3-inch, and that just goes out to your exhaust or your muffler out the back. But the way this is shipped, being it's loose like this allows you pretty much just to tweak it, get everything lined up perfectly, you know, tack it in place, and then make sure everything fits, and before you know, permanently weld the thing. But another thing to note, this is a Hawks Y pipe, and these are eBay headers. That is how I am running the car now. I do have the, like I said, the cheaper weld-in Y pipe on the car with the 1 3/4 headers, and that lined up no problem. So I'm really hoping these two are going to, so I'm really hoping this is going to work out and everything's going to line up. I'm not going to have any problems. But the only thing that has me on the fence is that I actually called up Hawks, and with their headers that run like about 1,100 bucks, they're 1 7/8 headers. They don't actually make a Y pipe, and this Y pipe is for their 1 3/4 only. They have it listed on their site. But I called the guy up and he said it will work. You might have to tweak it a little bit, but you can make it work. So I'm hoping that it is going to work with these headers, being I'm pretty sure these are just like exact like Hawks knockoffs. But I do have a welder, so if I do have to modify this Y pipe at all, I will be able to do it. So I'm not too worried about it actually getting it to fit. But let's take a closer look at these headers. So like I said, these cost me 300 bucks shipped, opposed to the Hawks, which cost around, I think they're like 1,060 bucks before shipping. Both are 1 7/8. But you can see for the money, for 300 bucks, I mean, they're pretty good quality. You know, the welds are clean. There's nothing to, you know, there's no jagged edges in here. Inside the collector also looks pretty good. So I mean, the price difference is just like ridiculous. So for $300, especially actually in my car, which a lot of guys probably gonna have this problem, especially if you're doing this in 3rd gen, the ground clearance is terrible. So I'm not gonna go and buy $1,100 headers just to have them scrape along the ground like that. There's really no point. So I'll just save the money and go with the cheaper ones. All right, so the installation is relatively simple. The first thing you want to do is get the car up in the air as high as possible on jack stands. When I put these headers in, I did do it in this exact driveway, so it is possible. Having a lift is going to make this way easier, but you can do it on the ground. So right now I'm just going to lift the car up, get it as high as I can on jack stands, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull all the spark plug wires off. And I'm also probably going to pull the spark plugs just because that's going to give me a little more clearance getting the headers out and the new ones in. And then not only that, sometimes you could just tap a spark plug, crack it, and you won't even know, and then you'll develop a misfire. So it's just going to be easier with the installation process by taking all the spark plugs out. All right, so I got the car in the air. It took a little more work than you actually saw because the driveway is so narrow and like slanted. I had to go up on one side, up on the other side, up on the other side. So I had to keep doing that until I got it high enough. But it is on jack stands. It is secure. I think that is enough. There should be enough height. I can bring it up a little more in the front if I need to, but I think I'm going to be all right. I got the jack under the front just for cheap insurance. So right now I'm going to crawl under here and show you my current headers. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the passenger side collector, and yeah, look at how scraped that is. And like I said, the pipe that's going on is actually going to be bigger than this because this is actually slipped inside of the header and the other one's going to go on the outside. So this whole pipe is actually bigger. So I am going to lose a little more ground clearance in this pipe, which as you can see, really can't afford to lose anymore. But maybe the way this new one is routed, I mean, you can see there's a lot of space to get this thing tucked up. So I'm hoping the way that's designed is actually going to tuck that up to the frame a little bit more and eliminate this issue. As for this issue, those band clamps, assuming that they seal properly, are going to let me get rid of this really bulky V-band, and then I'm not gonna have this issue anymore with the clamp getting caught on driveways and getting ripped off. So that problem should be solved. But right now I'm going to start at the back and take the clamp off of here. This is where the Hawks pipe ends. I'm going to take this off. I did have to tack weld this in place because the clamp wasn't holding enough and it had a little bit of a leak there, so I might have to come in here, grind this a little bit, but then this should slip out, and then disconnect the two V-bands there, and then the Y pipe will be out. So I'm going to do that now. Alright guys, so I got the back half of the Y pipe loose. Now I'm just going to go and disconnect the two V-bands, and it should come down and then slide out the back. Alright, so the Y pipe is out. It actually kind of fell on my face, but my wide band caught it. I completely forgot I even had that in there because I currently don't have it hooked up. I'm not going to hook it up now because I don't have a bung to weld into the new pipe, so I'm just going to leave it off. Eventually I'm going to hook it up. That'll be another video. I can actually go through the whole installation process, so I'm not worried about that. But I am going to go into the car and remove it through the center console. That way it'll drop down. And then from there, the Y pipe will be out. It's disconnected from there. I just got to slip it out. And then I guess I'll disconnect the O2 sensors from the headers and we'll start pulling them out. All right, so the old Y pipe is out. As you can see, it's pretty rusty and crusty. The back here is what gave me the problem because that was really stuck on there, but a few hits, it slipped out. There's my wideband. I went in the car, I just disconnected that. I just had to remove the shifter plate and fish the plug through the hole. That was really no problem. I'm just going to take this out of the pipe and hold on to that. So like I said, that will be a video later on when I do reinstall that on the car. And here is the other side. You can see how flattened that is from rubbing and scraping on the ground and driveways and like dips in the road. The same with the V-band over here, just a little bit scraped, but not that bad because that clamp was taking most of it. But like I said, by eliminating the V-bands and hopefully getting those band clamps to seal up, you'll see I'll be gaining literally all this as ground clearance, being that'll just be like flush with the pipe. So for now, I'm just gonna go pull the O2 sensors out of the headers, disconnect them, and then we'll go up top and start actually removing them. Alright, so the O2 sensors are disconnected. I'm just gonna leave them in the headers and pull them out, remove them after. But while I'm under here, I noticed my transmission is leaking again back here. I've always had a problem with the tail shaft leaking. I actually went and I bought a new housing because sometimes that bushing in there that actually holds the drive shaft and keeps it from shaking, that wears out. But the other thing is I noticed that my transmission mount is loose. So this thing is probably just, yeah, the whole transmission's shaking. So yeah, that'll probably cause the leak too. Alright, so I got the Y pipe out. Now you can see the difference between the Hawk slip fit Y pipe and Hawk's Weldon Y pipe. Like I said, the price difference on these two, that one was $300. This one was $160, I believe. And you could see how the slip fit, being the header is actually going inside of here, it is a lot bigger compared to the Weldon. So I am going to lose some more ground clearance there. But like I said, when I was under the car before, I'm hoping I'll be able to tuck it up enough where it's not going to scrape anymore like this one was. Alright, so now I'm going to start removing the headers. Like I said before, I'm going to start with the spark plug wires and the plugs, and then the dipstick tube has to come out on this side, and then they should slide out. They're going to come out the bottom. The car should be high enough, so hopefully this goes off without a hitch. So let's get started. Alright, so just like that, the headers are out. The screws came out no problem, and literally they just fell out. They gave me no problem whatsoever. They came right out. I got them right over here, and looking at the 1 7/8, they look pretty much the same as far as the pipe routing. I mean, there's a little difference, like over here. This primary is coming down at an angle, whereas this one's straight. And over here, this one's straight, and this one's coming down at an angle. So that's the difference. But I mean, in the overall shape of them, they look pretty much the same. As for the gaskets, they come with some, but I had these like steel, like really thick leak preventing gaskets. I might just reuse these. I'm not sure how much different these flanges are opposed to these. Maybe they're better, maybe they're flatter, they'll sit a little better. Am I gonna have to see? I think I'm just gonna go with the ones they give you and go from there. Worst case, I can always loosen the headers out and get a new set of the multi-layer steel gaskets and just swap them out later. but just that these are new, I'm going to go with these. So next step, I'm going to go and remove the O2 sensors, transfer them over to the new headers, and then we'll be ready to slip them into the car. All right, so I got the oxygen sensor switched over. Now I'm just gonna go and clean the head with some brake cleaner, just to clean any soot and debris off. Make sure I get a nice clean surface for the gaskets to seal, and then we'll drop the headers in. All right, so I got the driver's side header in. I'm still fighting with the passenger side, but the driver went in relatively with no problem. The only thing I had to do was remove the oil filter, just because you kind of have to pull the collector at an angle towards that way to get all the pipes through, and the filter was in the way, so I just took the oil filter out. Then it really just slipped in, no problem. The passenger side, I needed more room to bring the car up, so I went and I lifted the car up a little bit more. And now I got it pretty much sitting between the head and the block, but it's only halfway in, so I have to get it up a little bit more. I might have to jack the engine up a little bit, or slide maybe the transmission back to give me a little more clearance between the firewall and the bell housing. But other than that, it should go right in. So I'm just going to put the spark plug wires and the spark plugs back in on the driver's side, and then we'll go over and try to get the passenger side in. All right, so the driver's side is finished. I got the plugs back in, I got the wires on, and the clearance is extremely good. It's way better than my my previous headers. Like before, when I was removing the spark plugs, I had to use a box wrench in addition to the socket, just because the way the pipes are ran, I wasn't able to get the whole socket on there straight. But with the bigger headers now, there's actually more room, and I could get on there perfectly straight. There's plenty of room. I also noticed that the flanges are way nicer than the old headers, because before, if you look at these, you can actually see how that's kind of like bent. It's like curved that way, and I actually had a lot of leaks with these. That's why I went to those multi-layer gaskets. But with the new headers, they look much better, and I really don't see any spaces in the gasket. They're nice and flat. Like I said, the clearance is fantastic. Nothing's rubbing, nothing's even close to rubbing. Under the car is the same thing. You can see plenty of room for the oxygen sensor. I got that hooked backed up, plugged in, zip tied up. Plenty of room by the K-member. So yeah, driver's side, huge success. I'm still fighting with the passenger side, but now that this is together, it's time to get over there and try to get this thing slipped into place. All right, update, passenger side header is in. After a lot of struggling and time, what I ended up having to do, the height wasn't the problem. The car's up high enough, but I was hitting the back of the firewall, and then the studs for the heads were getting caught on the flange here. So what I ended up doing, I took this big pry bar. I didn't even take the mount out. I hammered the pry bar in between the clamshell and the K-member, and just to kind of like wedge it up. I didn't even take the bolt out, just to wedge it up just a little bit. And then on top of that, I went and I had to drop the starter down, which I may not have even had to do now because it was hitting a little bit over here, but I just dropped it down and left the wires connected. It wasn't a big deal, it came right down. But other than that, it went right in. You can see here, right here is where it was hitting, right on this like piece of the firewall here. There's really no room to get in there with a hammer. I tried hitting it to flatten it. I flattened it over here a little bit. Can't reach that part. But the pry bar under the motor mount did do it. I probably could have even put maybe a jack under the oil pan with a piece of wood, and that would have brought it up. But I couldn't actually pull the bolt out because the AC compressor's in the way. So that wouldn't have helped me. I had to keep the mount tight. But yeah, the pry bar did it. The header is in. So now I'm just gonna get the gasket in, bolt it all up, and maybe we'll start it up with the open header, see what it sounds like. All right, so the spark plugs wires are back together on the passenger side. Headers are in, finished. They look great. Same thing that goes for the passenger side. All the spark plugs and the wires, you can see there's plenty of room. They're nowhere near touching. The flanges are nice and flat. They sit good. It doesn't look like there's any spaces between the flange and the head. So I think they're going to seal up really nicely. Same thing for underneath here. I got my O2 sensor plugged back in, and as you can see, plenty of room between the bell housing and the header. Plenty of room between the frame and the K-member. There's just plenty of room, and for 300 bucks, I mean, opposed to the 1100 for the Hawk set, I mean, you really can't beat it. Now here's my old stuff over here. You could just see, now that it's off the car and up close, just how small the pipes actually are compared to the new pipe that I have going in. Being this is a Weldon connection, so when I bought this pipe, it didn't have these flanges on here. Obviously, I said I put the V-bands, but the pipe actually slipped into the header, like I said earlier, and that was causing problems with leaks because the header was leaking at the seam. It wasn't sealing up, and because it was slipping inside the header, this pipe here was smaller. But now with the new Y pipe, it's going to be a lot tighter, being that the pipe is going to actually go over the outside of the header, so I don't think we're going to have a problem with it leaking. The band clamp should do its job, should seal it up, and it is going to flow a lot better, being the bigger 1 7/8, and this pipe is going to be a lot bigger. So I think it's really going to help when the blower is actually on the car. So I think for now I'm just going to start it up, see what it sounds like, and then tomorrow I'm going to put the Y pipe in.